This is my video log on the storyboards. With these video logs, I normally go on quite too long, so I'm going to just summarize up all the storyboards from these weeks and just summarize up what I thought about the learning of the different arm movements and how I thought my storyboards went. So the first one was traditional narrative. With these storyboards, I really like these ones. I went in really lots of detail with a lot of the background in detail as well in some parts. I think the illustration could have been better, but there's some things where his head's quite big in some frames, smaller in the other. And could have a little better with detail, I think, really, but I think it's kind of more sort of experiment with different styles of these. I think it's best to see if you can have a go at different styles and portray the story in a different way of Hansel and Gretel, which I think is a good thing, and to keep experimenting with having a different style maybe with different movements. I feel like you can read the storyboards quite well without any narration to the frames, so with what's happening you can kind of see the bird and then like the low angle of them looking at the bird and the bird flying off. So I think you can kind of read it quite well. If you know what the scene is, then it would be quite easy to read, which I'm really happy about, because I think for me I would like to do a lot more with the framing and the drawings of the panels than having kind of having some kind of description to it. Because I feel like storyboards are a lot better if you don't need to put kind of annotations here to say what they are. I think with these, especially with like shadows and having a play with lighting in this one, was a lot more fun and a lot more good to kind of have a go with and to try out. Because for me, I do like to learn a lot about cinematography and really get the kind of full understanding of cinematography, so I know if I want something in my films, I know how to get it, I know how to get the lighting from live action to animation as well. With animation it's more to do with colour than with obviously physical lights. But overall I do like the style of the first one. I think the witch is quite a nice illustration here to portray in this. I think also really with this shot here, with kind of you see this figure and then it's an old woman, and then you've got kind of like Hansel dropping a piece of gingerbread from the house is in quite a shot, like, oh no, we're in trouble kind of thing. And obviously the different camera movements with the arrows to indicate that, and also the kind of thin arrows to indicate character movement. When I did this one, we weren't really that much, wasn't that much knowledge. I did it from what I learned from storyboards, and then doing other modules, I was able to learn more about storyboards. And as you go through it, you'll be able to see the progression of learning about storyboards and then keep on doing it and practicing storyboards. It showed my progression of learning, and that over time, over the space of a couple of weeks, I do start to look a little bit more professional. Overall, the first one's really happy with them, really went into a lot of detail, really went through shot by shot, which obviously is how you undo them. And I think the great thing about storyboards, I think that storyboards is the first visual representation of finally getting out of your head and onto paper and onto screen. With the second week's storyboards, this one was on modern narrative, and this time I had the introduction. So we went for kind of really Dr. Caligari and with dark shadows and more mood lighting. With this one I really liked the practice of using lighting a lot more in different shades and showing the portray of the light coming from the moon and the kind of stick figures and kind of really jagged points and scratchy lines for this kind of really portray the modernism movement in this one. And also I think practice with shading, because I do like to practice with more shading, and as I said before, practice with lighting in animation, because to me it's quite hard to portray lighting, especially trying to do kind of a more live action mimic into animation. Also with lighting as well, even doing the opposite as well and experimenting with not live action lighting and with doing what the camera can't do or doing what live action can't do, which is what you can do with animation, is you've got such freedom and such power to do what you want in animation that you could have a play with lighting, and that's something that I would like to do more with animation and play around with as well. But I was really happy with the style and portray that it came out really well, and wasn't really happy with where you can actually tell here with the different lightings and all obvious. It was a little bit more subtle and not really, to be honest, I'm not really happy with the scratchy of each lines. It felt like a kind of spectrum, which I'm not really happy with, and would like if each shade kind of blended in with each other. It kind of looks like I've kind of just gone quite drastic with different parts of the swatches and palettes in Photoshop to gain this. So I think this would have been a lot more better. With this hairstyle here with the mother, taken from I think it's the character Miss Ratchet from The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, so taking inspiration from live action and adding it into animation, especially with costumes and characters, looks based upon actresses and actors. I think it's something really good to do and fun to experiment to see if it does work, taking elements of live action and putting it in animation. I think that's something that with animation evolving, with over the evolution of animation, everybody is kind of done and put together to create what we have today, and especially with Disney stuff being more like, as I call, heavy on live action animation, where it's all anatomically correct and perfect to live action, and that even they prove that they can film some of the stuff that they've done in animation in live action. But I think really with this one is just have a play more with lighting. I think experiment more with having it maybe darker, actually also with it coming off face this side is where the lighting is. So if we've got the dad sitting up, and I think here is where the candle light was meant to be, or the gas light, and with it coming from this way in this shot, coming from here, the lighting should be coming from this way for the mother. So with this, all it really would be to do to flip this shadow here and put it this side so that the lighting is kind of working in both directions. If that was the case, I was able to flip this and change it. Really, these two shots would look like would work next to each other because of how they're sat here and here. It would really work with kind of like almost a split screen effect going on with these two shots. But I am quite happy with this. I didn't go as mad and over the top with the drawings, but you can still portray what's going on. So you've got the established shot of the moon, the woods with the house on their own, and then them talking, and then the children listening, and then this shot I think is them leaving, so it kind of doesn't make sense. There's a bit of kind of surrealism and kind of narrative jumping from one bit to the next, but it kind of fits together because they're talking about getting rid of the children, and then you go straight to kind of them getting rid of the children, and you kind of have the introduction of the mother saying that we're going to get rid of you, then it actually happening, and Hansel having the last talk with his dad before they go off into the woods, and there they are off in the woods in the background there. Week 3 was the postmodernism. With this one, we went kind of with kind of Tarantino stuff with not quite cool classic gangster crime, but with modern. It was all quite chappy and gangsters and stuff like that, which I thought was a really good element. So I did it from the ending with the witch being shot, and then Gretel running to the woods, and then kind of Hansel looking really happy and quite intoxicated from drugs, I guess, that the witch is fed in. But this one's really good and kind of slightly comedy acts, so kind of taking from Pulp Fiction being dark comedy, taking from that and putting it together with the elements of Hansel and Gretel. I think this one could have been a lot more drawn better, but I think sometimes with storyboards you can be detailed if you wanted to, or you don't need to. It depends on the director. I think it would be best to practice with it, with me not being the director, and thinking of it as if someone else has asked me to make this, so that someone else could draw it. And I think with making storyboards, it'd be good if I made them and asked people, get feedback saying, do you understand what's going on? Can you see that this is Gretel running through the woods? Can you see this is Gretel? Can you see what's going on here? Can you see the camera movements of the track? Is that the best way to portray a track with just an arrow there? But I really enjoyed actually kind of finding out and working out for myself how this would all change and how this would work together and fit together, and also the kind of things like with the car having neon and just putting it all together and having money instead of sweets and treats and straws, isn't it, in the actual one, which kind of fit together with the original story. But also with this to kind of have the kind of Ozzy Osbourne glasses that in the film Leon the Professional has been taken from, also again with live action actors and characters, and putting that into animation and experimenting more with that. I really like to experiment more. I feel like with animation I have a lot of exploring really, and kind of still finding my style, but still coming up with ideas like, oh, what about if I did this, this will look really good, or if I did this, this will look really good, and just experimenting more. And even if I go, oh yeah, that'll be really good, and then it takes me ages to do it, and it's not actually feasible to do it because it takes so long, is that I learn from that, saying, okay, if I am going to do some kind of one long take shot, it will take a long time to do, and that maybe some projects for modules, and even for personal projects as well, if I'm trying to get quite a lot of stuff from my portfolio, but it's taking me a long time to do because of all these really long shots. It may not be feasible to do really long shots. So kind of really experimenting really with animation really. and seeing if it would work. With week 4, this one is the animatic storyboards I don't have on here, so I'll kind of go through the animatics. Mine's only the first one anyway. I'll talk through it while it goes. So this one is mine with the small zoom. With this, I did really want to see if the long shot would work, so I'm cutting it bit by bit by bit by bit by bit. Really like to portray it. I think there was a little bit too much animation animatics. I am quite bad with animatics, where I do put way too much in. Way too much in the animatic that I even need to put in. So I think really kind of actually doing some research on animatics, so I kind of do definitely understand straight away. Okay, that's too much. That's literally an animation. Yeah, can't really put that in. That's too much of an animation. That by the end of an animatic, it could be actually no, this is an animation, not an animatic. So with it, I think with animatics, I just need to get my head around them and understand definitely what animatics are. I know a lot of people kind of just have the storyboards and put them up, but I think I just really just enjoy animation too much and just really enjoy the process of just sitting there and getting on with it, and because I know how time consuming it is, so I just want to do it and hope that something would work. And if it doesn't work, that's kind of time not wasted, but it means I have to reanimate something, which is fine, but it's kind of, I don't know if it is an animation thing. Get worried about, I've got so much to do, so much to animate, so took a long time. That didn't work great. But the idea of this module and this course is that it really is about experimenting and making mistakes and going, yeah, that didn't work, so I can't put that in. And that's what you're going to do with animatics, which I think it's good to do stuff like this camera shot, see if it does work, and to get the timing right. So I think with animatics, to do a lot more practice with these, even with my own projects, or just making something up and just doing small animatics for it, and storyboards, just so I say, does this work for an animatic? Is it too much? Or is this an animatic, or is it too much of an animation? But I do like this, and you do get the gist of the story. There was a problem with throughout the whole thing that, right from the beginning, that throughout the whole thing the narrative wasn't brilliantly portrayed, which I feel that there was a problem with peers and animatics not being done on time and having to wait for the process to move on to the animation process, if this was, which it didn't. We're moving on to the actual brief after this. But in industry, if you were kind of held back by that, it's not good, and I kind of find it quite stressful that, great, now I can't really push forward because you can't see the timing of everything coming together. So that was something that was a problem. But I really like these that I've drawn where with the detail of the trees. I really like that, and I think really showing the thickness of the pen to kind of show who's being brought forward and what's being put in the background. But overall, I really did enjoy all the 4 weeks of learning about postmodernism and all the different isms, and kind of knowing how I can put this towards my animation and how it would all work, so that how I could put things. One thing I really liked was with Salvador Dali, and this one, which is the lobster. I really like this. I think it's really funny, and I think we need to put this in like a lot of my animations and quite a signature kind of thing, so that not only when a character in mine or few characters in some animations of mine, when they answer the phone, it will be kind of like a lobster kind of a lobster phone when they answer it. So I think something like that would be really cool and quite funny to put in. But maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. But I think that's something like to try out and to put in with my animations as well, to see if that would work, or to see if putting it in works for some animations, but maybe not, because you have to. It depends on the kind of genre, and if it's not really comedy and just throwing a lobster phone, it's not going to fit the animation. So when it seems necessary, I think it would be a good thing to put in. And unfortunately, I haven't done it in animation. I know they do put things of artworks and artists' work in animations. I've seen it done in Looney Tunes a number of times. But I think stuff like that would be really cool and quite really good to kind of have a go at and experiment putting in. But overall, I really did enjoy learning about all this and how the narrative works. The narrative is obviously so important in animation and in live action, that having the knowledge of it and thinking, what about if I approach this animation like in the future as a postmodern or as quite surreal or futurism or cubism, or different things, even with aesthetics, lighting, you know, loads of different things from cinematography that I can put together, and then especially in animation, with the freedom you have of doing what the camera can't do, and that you're in the role kind of playing God, there's so much you can actually do to it, and I think overall it will just work well, and I think that can't wait in future to kind of have a go at putting all these different narrative postmodernism and all these different isms involved in with my animations in the future. But so far, really enjoyed learning, really enjoyed doing a lot of storyboard practice and animated practice. But overall, really happy with it.